7:42 a.m. Stratus Tech Headquarters. The lobby gleamed, glass walls, marble floors, coffee machines that hissed like luxury cars. And right there in the reflection of all that wealth was Ethan Cole, 32, Navy janitor uniform, name tag half peeled. "Morning, Ethan," murmured the security guard. Ethan smiled, small and genuine. "Morning, Pete." He pushed his mop cart past a herd of employees in tailored suits. None of them made eye contact. A few lifted their feet so he could sweep under them without saying thank you. He'd heard every nickname in the book. Mr. Mop, Custodian Christ, the Ghost. But Ethan didn't flinch. Every night he clocked in, cleaned, clocked out, went home to a one-bedroom apartment with flickering lights and a laptop that hummed like a secret. If they only knew. 8:15 a.m. The elevator chimed. "Hey, watch the bucket man," snapped Tyler, a 20-something sales hotshot with hair that probably had its own agent. "Sorry," Ethan said, stepping aside. Tyler smirked at his friends. "Bro, janitors shouldn't ride the employee elevator. There's a service one for a reason." Laughter, 3 suits, 1 target. Ethan just nodded. "Didn't know Dirt had a dress code," he murmured, but softly enough that only the walls heard him. Inside the conference room, the laughter continued, only louder. Ethan began wiping fingerprints off the glass door when he heard Mark Stevens, head of operations, barking orders. "We're behind schedule again, and someone left a mess in the hallway. For crying out loud, what are we paying maintenance for?" The team laughed. Ethan froze, rag in hand. Mark's voice carried through the glass. "I swear these janitors should pay us for letting them in the building." Another round of laughter. Ethan smiled just barely. "Noted," he whispered, scribbling something into a small black notebook he always carried. "They talk, I listen." 11:58. The office was dark except for the soft blue glow of screensavers. Ethan sat alone at a computer terminal in the corner, typing fast. "Not cleaning, coding." Lines of data scrolled across the screen. Company purchase records, board communications, stock projections, stuff no janitor should ever see. A soft ping echoed, a message appeared. "Unknown user, everything on schedule." "Ethan, phase 1 complete, they still don't see me." "Unknown user, good, next week we pull the trigger." He leaned back, eyes glinting in the monitor's light. Tomorrow they'd laugh again, tomorrow he'd keep smiling. And soon, the same people mocking him would be standing at attention. The next morning, Ethan walked into the break room, mop in hand. The chatter died instantly, not out of respect, but because gossip had walked in too. "You guys see the new CEO rumors," said Lena, marketing. "Apparently some investors buying the company." "Yeah, right," Tyler scoffed, biting into a sandwich. "Who'd waste money on this dumpster fire?" Mark laughed. "Maybe our janitors pulling strings behind the scenes." Everyone chuckled. Ethan kept cleaning, pretending not to hear. Then his phone buzzed in his pocket. He stepped aside, checked the message. Text from unknown, board meeting confirmed, 1 week. He slid the phone back, expression unreadable. Tyler leaned over, smirking. "Hey Ethan, ever think about getting a real job?" Ethan paused. "Every day." The room snickered. "Cute," Tyler said. "Maybe start with washing that uniform." Ethan set the mop against the wall and looked him dead in the eyes. "Maybe I'll start with washing this place clean." For the first time, Tyler didn't have a comeback. Friday, monthly team meeting. Mark stood center stage in front of a projector screen, grinning like a talk show host. "Before we begin," he said, "I'd like to present a very special recognition. This month's unsung hero, our very own janitor." Applause, sarcastic, loud, mean. Ethan stepped forward slowly. The stage lights washed over him. Every face in the room was smiling for the wrong reason. Mark handed him a tiny plastic trophy shaped like a broom. "Speech," someone yelled. Ethan took the mic. "Thank you," he said calmly. "You're right, most heroes are unseen." A pause, but sometimes they're just waiting for the right moment to be noticed. Polite laughter. He placed the trophy on the podium, smiled, and walked off stage. Back at his cart, he opened his notebook again. On the page were 6 names, each written neatly beneath a heading, "Those who forgot to look." Later that night, in a dim apartment filled with empty coffee cups and computer cables, Ethan's phone rang. "Cole here," he answered. A woman's voice crackled through the speaker, confident, cold. "Ethan, the acquisition papers are ready. The board thinks you're our anonymous investor." Ethan smirked. "Good, let's keep it that way." "You really want to show up in person?" "Oh, absolutely," he said, swirling black coffee in a chipped mug. "It's more fun when they see the janitor walk in first." Days blurred into each other. Ethan kept his routine, same mop, same quiet nods, same blank stares from people who'd never guess. But in the background, emails flew, lawyers signed, and bank transfers lit up dashboards in corporate offices across the city. Every time Mark or Tyler made a jab, Ethan logged it in that notebook. He wasn't planning revenge, he was gathering evidence. Because when he took over, the first thing to change wouldn't be the logo. It would be the people. The last Friday of the month began with thunder outside and chaos inside. Everyone was talking about the mysterious acquisition meeting scheduled for Monday morning. Lena whispered, "You think we're getting bought out?" Tyler shrugged, "If we do, I hope the new boss cleans house. No offense, Ethan." "None taken," Ethan said, wheeling his cart past them. His phone buzzed again, one word, confirmed. He looked up at the building's logo on the glass wall, straight as tech. Soon his name would be on that glass. At noon, Ethan entered the break room to find Mark holding another fun meeting. Mark lifted his cup. "To hard work team, even our janitor been busy pretending to be one of us." Laughter. Ethan placed his mop down, pretending. "Come on, Ethan, don't get all sensitive." Mark gestured toward the floor. "You're good at cleaning up other people's messes, just stay in your lane." Ethan tilted his head, calm as ice. "Funny, I was about to say the same thing to you." Mark blinked. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Guess you'll find out Monday." Ethan left the room before anyone could respond. The silence he left behind was louder than any comeback. Rain hammered against the windows. Ethan sat by his desk, staring at the glowing screen of a live conference invite. Board meeting, new ownership announcement, 8:00 a.m. His reflection stared back, same tired eyes, same worn hands. But this time there was purpose behind them. He picked up the little plastic broom trophy from earlier and set it beside his laptop. "You wanted a janitor," he said softly, "now you'll get one." He closed his notebook, sealing away months of notes, proof, and patience. 7:59 a.m. Monday. The boardroom buzzed with confusion. Cameras ready, executives whispering, employees peeking through glass walls. Mark stood at the front, tugging his tie. "Anyone know who this new guy is?" Tyler whispered, "Probably some rich old dude. Hopefully he doesn't fire us." The double doors swung open. Footsteps echoed down the marble hall. A janitor's uniform, a familiar face. Every whisper died instantly. Ethan paused in the doorway, eyes scanning the room. Mark's voice cracked, What are you doing here?" Ethan smiled, "Didn't anyone tell you I'm here for the meeting?" You're not supposed to." "I am," Ethan interrupted, holding up a leather folder embossed with the straightest tech logo. "Shareholder access effective today." The room froze, chairs squeaked, someone dropped a pen. "Wait," Tyler stammered, "you mean you're the buyer?" Ethan set the folder on the table. "No," he said, straightening his jacket. "I'm the boss." Cut to black. Cue the tension. Because now, the nobody everybody ignored had just walked back in to run the show. The room was dead silent. You could hear the buzz of the fluorescent lights, the hum of the AC, and the sound of one man's shoes crossing the marble floor. Ethan walked straight past the cluster of executives who just a few days ago wouldn't even meet his eyes. Every face he passed was locked in disbelief. Mark's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Tyler's smirk had evaporated. Ethan reached the head of the table, pulled out the chair that once belonged to the CEO, and sat down. He didn't have to say a word. The gesture alone spoke louder than any announcement. Finally, the head of HR broke the silence. "Mr. Cole, are you saying you own the company?" Ethan finished. "Yes, as of this morning." Mark gave a short, humorless laugh. "This is insane, someone playing a prank." Ethan placed the folder on the table and opened it with perfect calm. Inside were the signed acquisition documents, the transfer records, and the new board directives. His name was printed across every page in clean, bold letters. Ethan Cole, Chief Executive Officer. Mark's voice cracked. You bought straight as tech." Ethan looked up. "No," he said evenly. "I bought back what was mine." The words landed like a slap. The room went still again. No one spoke for a full 10 seconds. Then came the wave, whispers, frantic scrolling on phones, someone whispering, "Check the SEC filings." Within moments, the confirmation hit. Straight as tech had indeed been sold. And the buyer was none other than Ethan Cole, former co-founder, bought out years ago in what everyone thought was a quiet settlement. But Ethan had never left. He'd simply traded his desk for a mop. Mark stumbled over his words. You were the founder, that's impossible. The founder was fired, Ethan cut in, by people who didn't like the idea of a kid with a working-class background owning part of their shiny empire. So I left, but I didn't forget. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket. And now I'm back to make sure no one else ever gets treated the way I did. The camera flashes outside the glass walls started popping. News had broken, reporters were already downstairs. Ethan's assistant, a woman in a sharp black suit, entered quietly and handed him a tablet. "Press conference is ready when you are, sir." Ethan nodded. "Give me 10 minutes. He turned back to the room. "I suggest you all get familiar with the new company culture. Respect is mandatory, arrogance is optional." Mark's face flushed red. "You can't just walk in here and act like you're—" "I am acting like I am," Ethan said, leaning closer, "because I am." Tyler muttered, "This is unreal." Ethan gave a small smile. Reality usually is when it finally catches up. He walked out, leaving the entire team frozen in a silence thicker than any lecture. Outside, the building's lobby was chaos. Reporters swarmed the marble steps, cameras rolling, microphones raised. The janitor who became CEO was already a headline. Ethan stepped up to the podium under a wave of flashing lights. "Good morning," he began. "Most of you knew me as a face you didn't look twice at, the guy cleaning floors while you discussed profits. But today we start something different. We start with accountability." He didn't yell, he didn't posture. His calm made every word feel sharper. "Straightest Tech is under new ownership, but not new values. The ones we lost are coming back." A journalist shouted, "Mr. Cole, why work here undercover?" Ethan glanced up at the crowd. "Because you can't fix what you don't understand, and the only way to understand a broken system is to live inside it." The crowd erupted in noise. Questions fired, cameras zoomed in. Ethan lifted his hand. "I've seen what disrespect does to a workplace. I've seen talented people ignored, hardworking people mocked, and arrogance rewarded. That ends today." He turned and walked away before anyone could ask more. Every movement was deliberate, confident. Inside, though, his pulse pounded like a war drum. By the time he reached his office, the real office, the corner one with the skyline view, he finally let out a slow breath. The city stretched beneath him, glass and light and noise. He took it in for a long moment, then looked down at the small plastic broom trophy he'd brought with him. He set it on his desk like a flag planted on conquered ground. "Now we clean up," he murmured. Behind him, his new executive assistant, Claire, handed him a list. "Internal review targets per your request." He nodded, scanning the names. Most of them were the same people who'd laughed in his face. "Start the audits quietly. I want full transparency reports by next week." "Understood," she said. When she left, Ethan looked out the window again. Below, a crowd was still gathering, chanting his name like a symbol. It didn't feel like victory, it felt like responsibility. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. A voice said, "They're already plotting against you." Ethan smiled faintly. "Good, that means they're scared." He hung up, slipped the phone into his pocket, and walked to the elevator. Downstairs, Mark and Tyler were in the break room, voices low and sharp. "This is insane," Tyler hissed. "We can't just let him come in and—" "Shut up," Mark snapped. "You think I'm letting some ex-janitor run the place? Not a chance. We'll find a way to push him out." "No." Mark grinned bitterly. Everyone got dirt, even him, especially him. They didn't notice Ethan step in behind them until he spoke. "If you're going to plot a coup," he said quietly, "try doing it somewhere that isn't wired with company microphones." They spun around, faces pale. "Sir, we were just—" "Talking about teamwork?" Ethan asked, leaning on the counter. "I heard every word. Don't worry, I like honesty. But next time maybe try telling the truth to my face instead of the coffee machine." He picked up a mug, poured himself a cup, and took a slow sip. "Good talk." He left them there in stunned silence, the smell of burnt pride thick in the air. By afternoon, the company was buzzing. News outlets had gone wild. "From janitor to CEO overnight," one headline screamed. "Modern-day Cinderella story," said another. But Ethan wasn't reading the headlines. He was reading reports: departmental waste, employee complaints, ignored proposals. He circled numbers in red ink. "Millions wasted on bonuses," he muttered. "No funding for staff training. Perfect." Claire peeked in. "Sir, do you want me to prepare the internal memo?" "Already drafted," he said, handing her a flash drive. "This goes live in the next 15 minutes. She hesitated. "You sure it's direct?" "That's the point." At exactly 3:00 p.m., every employee's screen flashed with an email. Subject: a clean start. From Ethan Cole, CEO. Effective immediately, Straightest Tech will begin a complete culture and ethics audit. Departments will be reviewed for waste, bias, and conduct. Transparency is not optional. Team meetings will be held tomorrow. Consider this a chance to rebuild or step aside. By 3:05, Slack was chaos. "Is this real? Who does he think he is?" "Bro, he's the owner now." And then another ping, mandatory meeting. 8:00 a.m. tomorrow, attendance required. That night, Ethan stayed late. He walked the empty halls where he'd once mopped, now echoing with the sound of his footsteps instead of the wheels of a cleaning cart. He stopped at the same hallway where Mark once mocked him. The floor gleamed. The reflection staring back at him wasn't the janitor anymore. He whispered to it, "Still me though, don't forget that." Down the hall, he caught a faint sound. Someone else was still in the building. He turned a corner and found Lena, the marketing analyst, hunched over her desk. "Why are you still here?" Ethan asked. She jumped, startled. "Oh, Mr. Cole, I mean sir, sorry, I was finishing the quarterly report." "At this hour?" She shrugged. "Deadlines don't care who owns the company." Ethan smiled faintly. "Keep that attitude, you're the kind of person I want leading, not following." She blinked, "Wait, leading. Come to the meeting tomorrow, front row." He walked away, leaving her staring after him. As the lights dimmed, Ethan stood by the massive Stratus logo in the lobby. For years, he'd wiped that sign clean for other people. Tonight, he touched the glass and whispered, "Mine again." He left the building at midnight. Rain had just started to fall, hard, sharp, relentless, the kind of rain that erases everything old and leaves the streets shining. The next morning, the staff filed into the main auditorium. The energy was nervous, confused. Mark and Tyler sat in the back, whispering. Ethan walked on stage, no notes, no teleprompter. "Let's talk about what happens next," he said. The murmurs stopped instantly. "When I worked here, most of you didn't see me. That was my biggest advantage. I learned more about this company than any consultant ever could. I learned who worked hard. I learned who didn't. I learned who helped, who hindered, who mocked, who inspired." He paused, scanning the faces. "And now we're going to fix it, together or not at all." A ripple ran through the crowd. "Some of you are wondering if I'm here for revenge," he said. "I'm not. I'm here for restoration, but make no mistake, restoration comes with consequences." Mark raised his hand. "So what, you're judge and jury now?" Ethan smiled. "No, Mark, I'm the janitor, and this place has a lot of trash to take out." The room erupted, gasps, whispers, even a few laughs. Ethan let them react, then leaned forward. "Every department head will meet with me privately this week. If you've got nothing to hide, you'll be fine. If you do, well, consider this your final warning." He stepped down from the stage and walked straight through the aisle. Every pair of eyes followed him. No music, no outro, just silence and realization. The same people who used to look down on him now couldn't look away. He reached the door, stopped, and turned once more. "Oh, and for those wondering what's next," he smiled. "Phase 2 starts tomorrow. You'll want to be here for it." He left them hanging on that sentence, the ultimate curiosity hook, half fear, half fascination. By the time the doors closed behind him, the buzz had started again. Speculation, panic, rumors. And up in his new office, Ethan poured himself another coffee, the same cheap brand he used to drink in the janitor's closet. He looked out at the skyline and whispered, "Let's see who's really irreplaceable." The storm outside had stopped, but inside the company walls it had only just begun. The morning after the storm, Stratus Tech looked like a shaken hive. No music played in the lobby, no one joked by the espresso machine. Every screen glowed with the same email subject line, Phase 2 Implementation Meeting 9 a.m. Employees shuffled into the auditorium clutching coffee like shields. The stage lights flicked on. Ethan stepped out in a dark suit, sleeves rolled, eyes sharp. He didn't wait for silence, he created it. "Good morning," he said. "Yesterday was about accountability, today is about action." The tension cracked like static. He tapped a tablet, the projector lit up behind him, charts, red lines, numbers bleeding downward. This company used to innovate. Somewhere along the way it started imitating. That ends now. Phase 2 is the rebuild. Someone near the back whispered, "Here we go again." Ethan's gaze snapped up. "Yes, here we go again, but this time we do it right." He swiped again, a new slide appeared, Project Ascent. Every department gets 72 hours to pitch one bold idea that could change how we operate, product, marketing, anything. No politics, no gatekeeping. The best ideas move forward, the worst get left behind. You'll be judged by results, not resumes. Lena, sitting near the front, mouthed wow. Mark leaned toward Tyler. "He's turning this place into a game show." Ethan caught the whisper. "You're right, Mark, except the prize isn't money, it's survival." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ethan smiled slightly. "Meeting dismissed, you've got 3 days, impress me." He walked off stage, leaving 100 employees buzzing like live wires. By noon, the building pulsed with nervous energy. Conference rooms filled with whiteboards and frantic brainstorming. For the first time in years, people who had been invisible were speaking up. Lena gathered a small team of analysts. "We could design a client feedback AI," she said. "Real-time insight, predictive behavior tracking." Her colleague frowned. "We need back-end support." A voice came from the doorway. "Then you've got it." Ethan stepped inside, sleeves rolled, tie loosened. "Need help coding? You'll get access to my sandbox server, no excuses." The team stared at him. "Why are you helping us directly?" Lena asked. "Because I'm not here to sit in an office," Ethan said. "I'm here to prove a point that talent isn't tied to title." He left as fast as he came, but his words stayed like a spark in dry grass. Meanwhile, Mark was packing his own office, fury simmering. "This is ridiculous," he muttered. "He's turning interns into decision-makers." Tyler sat across from him, spinning a pen. "We could sabotage the pitch thing, feed garbage data into his system." Mark's jaw tightened. "No, too obvious. We need something cleaner." He looked at the framed photo on his desk, the founding team, including Ethan, smiling years ago before betrayal carved lines between them. Mark tapped the glass. "He's still the same street kid pretending to be a visionary. We just have to remind everyone." Ethan's office door opened without a knock. Claire stepped in, tablet in hand. "You're not going to like this." He raised an eyebrow. "I rarely do." Mark been contacting investors, trying to convince them the acquisition was a hostile takeover. Ethan smirked. "Hostile, that's generous." He stood, grabbed his jacket. "Let's visit Mr. Stevens, shall we?" Mark looked up from his desk as the door swung open. Ethan walked in, calm as gravity. "Going behind my back already?" Mark forced a smile. "Just clarifying details. Investors get nervous. They'll be calmer after I send them the audit logs showing your bonus payouts disguised as consulting fees." Mark's grin collapsed. "You wouldn't." Ethan leaned in. "You're confusing me with the janitor you used to laugh at. That guy cleaned your messes. I delete them." He turned to leave, then paused. "By the way, if you want to keep your job, start acting like you deserve it. Pitch due in 2 days." When Ethan left, Mark's hands trembled. For the first time, fear outpaced pride. That evening, the building glowed like a hive at midnight, teams still working, screens alive. Ethan wandered floor to floor, quietly observing. He stopped at the marketing wing. Lena's team was still there, surrounded by notes and energy drinks. "How's it going?" he asked. Lena looked up, surprised. "We're close, but the data visualization keeps crashing." Ethan rolled up his sleeves. "Move over." He typed a few lines of code, fixed the error, hit run. The simulation came alive, sleek, fast, perfect. The room cheered. Lena stared. You still code?" Ethan smiled. "Once a builder, always a builder." Someone asked, "Why do you care this much? You already won." He looked around the room. "Because winning means nothing if the place stays broken." The words hit harder than any motivational poster. 2 floors up, Mark and Tyler watched from a glass balcony. "He's turning them all against us," Tyler whispered. "Then we give them something new to believe," Mark said. "If he wants a show, let's give him one." The next day, Ethan arrived early. He poured himself black coffee, the same cheap brand as before, and scanned the latest reports. Engagement up 240%, late-night logins skyrocketing, productivity at a record high. He smiled. "Fear's a great motivator, but belief's unstoppable." Claire entered. "Press wants an update on Project Ascent." "Tell them it's going exactly as planned." "You don't even know the ideas yet." He shrugged. "Doesn't matter, the culture's shifting, that's the real product." By evening, the first pitches started rolling in. Ethan stayed in the auditorium until midnight, hearing everyone. Some were brilliant, some were disasters, but every person spoke with energy the company hadn't seen in years. When Lena's turn came, she plugged in her laptop, the screen filled with flowing data and clean visuals. "This system tracks client satisfaction in real time," she explained. "It uses sentiment analysis and adaptive response loops to predict churn before it happens." Ethan watched quietly, arms crossed. Mark sat in the back, arms crossed for different reasons. Lena ended the demo with confidence. Projected retention increased 23%. Applause broke out. Ethan nodded once. Approved for prototype, full funding. Lena blinked. "Seriously?" "Seriously," Ethan said. "Get me a working demo in a week." As the crowd clapped again, Mark whispered to Tyler, "We're dead." After the meeting, Ethan found himself alone on stage. The lights dimmed, only the exit sign glowed red. Claire approached. "You should rest." "I will," he said, staring at the empty seats. "You ever notice how quiet success is? It's the silence after the noise that tells you it's real." She tilted her head. "You talk like someone expecting the next storm." He smiled faintly. "Because there's always a next storm." The storm arrived the next morning. An anonymous email hit every inbox at Straight as Tech. Subject: The truth about Ethan Cole. Attached was a photo, grainy but real, showing Ethan years ago shaking hands with the same corporate rival who tried to bankrupt the company. The caption read, "He sold us out once, what's stopping him again?" By 9 a.m., rumors were wildfire. Mark leaned back in his chair watching the chaos spread. Phase 2, huh? Let's see you spin this, boss. Ethan stood in front of his window reading the email on his phone. His reflection didn't flinch. Claire rushed in, "We're tracing the source." "No need," Ethan said softly. "I know exactly who sent it." He turned, grabbed his coat, and walked straight to Mark's office. Mark was mid-sentence on a fake phone call when Ethan kicked the door open. The crash made him jump. "You think a rumor can scare me?" Ethan said, voice low but lethal. "I've been underestimated my entire life. You can't cancel what's already been erased." Mark tried to stammer something, but Ethan cut him off. "You're suspended pending investigation. Security will escort you out." Two guards appeared at the door as if conjured. Mark's protest echoed down the hall as they led him away. Ethan stood there a moment, letting the noise fade. Then he walked back to his office, calm, returning like a tide. Claire followed. "You didn't even check if it was him." "I didn't have to. Guilt has a sound and I heard it." By afternoon, the office had split into two camps, those inspired by Ethan's drive and those terrified by it. But productivity did care which side anyone was on. The numbers kept climbing. Lena knocked on his door. "You should see this." She showed him the live analytics from her prototype. "It's working better than we hoped. Clients are responding instantly." Ethan grinned. "That's your promotion right there." She blinked. "Wait, seriously?" "Head of Data Innovation, effective immediately." Tears filled her eyes. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll keep proving them wrong," he replied. She nodded. "Every day." As night fell, Ethan sat alone in his office, city lights flickering beyond the glass. He opened his notebook, the one from his janitor days, and flipped past the list of names. At the bottom, underlined twice, was a single line: "When power returns, remember Grace." He closed it, took a deep breath, and looked out over the skyline. Phase 2 wasn't about revenge anymore, it was about rebirth. But far below, in a quiet bar across the street, Mark nursed a drink and spoke into a phone. "Yeah," he muttered, eyes cold. "He thinks he's untouchable. Let's show him how wrong he is." Static crackled on the other end. A deep voice replied, "Then Phase 3 begins." Mark smiled. "Perfect." Upstairs, unaware of the storm gathering again, Ethan whispered to himself, "Tomorrow we build higher." And somewhere in the city, thunder answered. The city skyline burned gold in the morning light. From the 32nd floor of Stratus Tech, Ethan Cole looked untouchable. The company's numbers were soaring, investors were calling, and every media outlet was painting him as the miracle CEO. But miracles always have skeptics, and somewhere below that glittering success, a storm was waiting to hit. It started with a message. Ethan's phone buzzed. "Unknown sender, you've made powerful enemies." He stared at the screen, brows tightening. The message vanished before he could screenshot it. No trace, no number, just silence. Claire walked in carrying the morning briefing. "Press wants a follow-up on Project Ascent," she said, then noticed his expression. "Something wrong?" "Not yet," he said, pocketing the phone, "but I can feel something coming." She raised a brow. "You always say that." "I'm always right." Meanwhile, in a quiet corner of the city, Mark sat in a dim cafe, jaw tight, phone pressed to his ear. "Everything's ready," said the deep voice on the other end. "We have access to the network." "Good," Mark hissed. "I don't just want him embarrassed, I want him ruined." "The deal will cost you." "I'll pay." "You already did," the voice said, then hung up. Mark's reflection in the window looked nothing like the corporate leader he'd once been. His tie was gone, his eyes hollow, but his grin was back. "Let's see how the janitor handles a real mess," he muttered. At Stratus Tech headquarters, the day moved fast. Ethan was on his third meeting, talking new partnerships, expansion plans, sustainability projects. He was alive in the chaos until Claire burst through the door, pale. "Sir, you need to see this." She turned her tablet toward him. Every major news site had the same breaking banner. "Stratus Tech under investigation, insider trading allegations." Ethan blinked. "What?" "They're saying you used private information to manipulate shares before the acquisition." "That's impossible," he said, standing up. "Everything was clean." Claire scrolled. "They leaked documents, emails, transaction logs, all look legit." Ethan grabbed the tablet. His own name glowed and forged messages authorizing illegal trades. "It's fake," he said through his teeth. "Someone fabricated these." "Then they were good at it," Claire whispered, "because the board just called an emergency session." By noon, the building felt like a pressure cooker. Cameras swarmed the front entrance, reporters yelling questions. Employees whispered in corners. Some avoided eye contact, others defended him loudly. Ethan stormed into the boardroom. The air was thick with judgment. "We had no choice," said one of the board members, an older man with gray hair slicked back. "The SEC is demanding a response. These documents are forged," Ethan snapped. The man raised a brow. "You'll forgive us if that's hard to verify at the moment." Ethan leaned across the table. "I built this company from scratch. You think I'd risk everything for a few extra zeros?" The CFO cleared her throat. "Intentions don't matter to regulators. Until you prove otherwise, we need you to step down temporarily." The word hit like a gunshot. Ethan's voice dropped to a razor's whisper, "Temporarily." "Public confidence is tanking," she said. "It's the only way to stabilize the stock." He stared at them. The same people who once cheered his return now couldn't even meet his eyes. "Fine," he said finally, voice flat. "If stepping down keeps this place alive, I'll do it." He turned toward the door. "But whoever did this, you'll wish I'd stayed gone." Outside, flashbulbs exploded. Reporters shouted, "Ethan, did you rig the acquisition? Are the allegations true?" He pushed through the noise, face like stone, until he reached the parking garage. There, leaning against a car, was Mark. "Well," Mark said, clapping slowly, "that was dramatic." "Ethan stopped you." Mark smiled. "You shouldn't have embarrassed me, Cole. You could have just let me walk away quietly." "You planted this." Mark tilted his head. "Planted, that sounds so intentional. Let's just say I had help from people who were eager to see you fall." "Who?" Mark leaned in close. "Ever heard of Voltrix Capital, the ones you outbid for Stratus?" Ethan's stomach dropped. "You sold them access." "I gave them justice," Mark said, "and they gave me protection." Ethan's voice turned ice cold. "You're playing with people who eat sharks for breakfast." Mark grinned. "Then I hope they're hungry." Ethan stepped closer, inches from his face. "You think this ends with me losing my job? No, Mark. This ends with you realizing you picked the wrong ghost to haunt." He turned and walked away, every step echoing through the concrete like a countdown. That night, Ethan sat alone in his penthouse, lights off, city outside flickering. On his laptop, he scrolled through the so-called evidence. Every fake email was timestamped with precision. Whoever did this had inside access. He leaned back. "Voltrix," he muttered, "of course." His phone buzzed, unknown number again, a voice distorted through static. "Nice empire you built, Mr. Cole. Shame if it collapsed." Ethan stayed calm. "You want a war, you just declared it." The line went dead. He stared at the skyline for a long moment, then picked up his phone and called Claire. "Get me every server log from the last 6 months," he said, and Claire discreetly. She didn't ask why on it. 2 days later, Ethan's name was on every screen in the country. Talk shows debated whether he was a genius or a fraud. Investors panicked. Stock plummeted. Mark watched the chaos unfold from a luxury apartment paid for by Voltrix. "You really did it," said a man sitting across from him, a tall figure in a charcoal suit, face half in shadow. "Told you I would," Mark said. The man smirked. "We'll keep our end of the bargain, but don't get comfortable. If Cole finds out you leaked internal data, we'll both have problems." Mark swallowed. "He's finished. He can't touch me." The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Everyone can be touched." At 3 in the morning, Claire's voice crackled through Ethan's speakerphone. "Found something." "What?" "There's a digital fingerprint. Whoever forged those emails left a trace, embedded metadata matching our internal encryption. Someone accessed our servers from a remote VPN last week." "From where?" "An address registered to Voltrix Capital." Ethan's jaw clenched. "Send me everything." He hung up, opened his laptop, and began typing, fast, furious. Code scrolled by as he built a tracking script, a trap hidden inside the company network. "Come and get me," he muttered. "Let's see who blinks first." Morning came. Ethan was due to attend a shareholder hearing, his reputation on trial. He walked in through the back entrance to avoid the cameras. The room buzzed with quiet hostility. Across the table sat the Voltrix representative, the same man who'd met with Mark, sleek suit, shark eyes. "Mr. Cole," he said smoothly, "we're here to discuss transparency." Ethan smiled faintly. "Then let's start with yours." He slid a USB drive across the table. "Play it." The representative hesitated. The room stared. He plugged it in. The screens lit up with security footage, grainy, timestamped from Stratus Tech's internal network. A remote login session, a familiar signature. "Whoever forged those emails used this connection," Ethan said. "And this connection traces back to Voltrix Capital. Care to explain?" The man's jaw tightened. "That footage could be fabricated." So could your evidence, Ethan said. The difference is mine's real. Whispers erupted, the board members exchanged glances. Ethan stood, you came for me with lies, I came for you with proof. Now we'll see who the world believes. He turned and walked out, every step a declaration. That afternoon, the headlines flipped. New evidence points to external sabotage. CEO may be victim of corporate espionage. The tide was turning. Mark watched the news in disbelief. No, 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 this wasn't supposed to happen. He grabbed his phone, you said this would bury him. The voice on the other end was cold. You were useful, Mark, not anymore. What does that mean? The call ended. Mark's lights went out, power dead, silence swallowed the room. Then a text appeared on his phone, never contact us again. Mark's hands shook, what did I do? Back at Stratus Tech, Ethan's reinstatement was swift. The board voted unanimously. When he walked back into the building, employees clapped, some stood, a few cried. He smiled modestly, lifting a hand. Save it, he said, we've got work to do. Claire met him in the hall, you really pulled that off. He smirked, you think I'd let them write my ending? She laughed, what now? Now, he looked out the window at the rain starting to fall again. Now we make sure no one ever tries that again. That night, as the city lights flickered, Ethan sat in his office surrounded by monitors. He built a new system, one that tracked every incoming connection, every anomaly, every shadow. And in the corner of the screen, one red ping glowed, unknown source. He clicked it, the feed opened to a live camera, grainy, dark, a warehouse. Inside, a group of men around a table. At the center, a Voltrix logo projected onto the wall. Ethan's pulse steadied, so that's where you're hiding. He grabbed his coat. Claire caught him at the elevator, where are you going? Out, he said, to clean up what's left. She stared at him, you can't just walk into their den. He smiled, why not, I'm just the janitor, remember. The elevator doors closed. Outside, thunder rolled across the city like applause. And for the first time since the beginning, Ethan wasn't cleaning floors, he was cleaning house. Rain streaked the windshield like veins of silver. Ethan's car sliced through the city, tires hissing across wet asphalt. Midnight glowed neon, reflections of red and blue from signs, traffic lights, and the pulse of a world that never slept. He parked 2 blocks from the warehouse and killed the engine. The air outside tasted metallic like anticipation. In the distance, thunder grumbled, rolling low. He stepped into the rain, coat collar high, phone pressed to his ear. Claire, he said. Her voice came through, anxious. Tell me you're not really doing this. I'm doing this. You're walking into a corporate syndicate's hideout alone. I've been cleaning messes my whole life. This one just happens to fight back. Ethan. He ended the call before she could finish. Some things couldn't be reasoned through, they had to be done. The warehouse loomed ahead, steel ribs, high windows, a single light burning inside like an eye. Ethan slipped through a side door left slightly ajar. Inside, the hum of servers filled the dark. Rows of crates, monitors glowing faint blue, men in suits speaking in low tones. On the far side of the floor, a long table stretched under a single hanging bulb. The Voltrix logo was projected across the wall, crisp and arrogant. Mark sat there, drenched in fear. 2 guards flanked him. Across from him, the man in the charcoal suit, the same voice from the phone calls. Mr. Stevens, the man said smoothly, your usefulness expired the moment Cole flipped the story. You failed. Mark stammered, you promised. The man raised a hand. 1 guard pressed a gun to Mark's ribs. Promises, the man said, are for equals, you're not one. Ethan's voice echoed from the shadows, neither are you. Head snapped toward him. The man in the suit smiled faintly, and there he is, the janitor who thinks he's a king. Ethan stepped forward, rain still dripping from his coat. Funny thing about janitors, they know every back door. Careful, the man said, standing, this isn't your boardroom. Ethan's gaze swept the room. No, it's yours, which means every file, every server here is running off a closed-loop network. You think you're hidden, but you're not. You left fingerprints on everything. The man tilted his head, bold words without proof. Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small flash drive. Proof's overrated, leverage is better. He tossed the drive onto the table. That's a live data link to every transaction Voltrix ran through Shell accounts last quarter, offshore laundering, insider bribes, securities fraud. It uploads automatically to federal servers in, he checked his watch, 3 minutes. The man's face didn't move, but his eyes flicked toward a guard. Cut the power. The guard bolted toward the servers. Ethan said quietly, bad move. The overhead lights snapped off, then roared back brighter. On every screen in the room, the same image appeared, Voltrix internal leak uploading 85%. Ethan smiled. You can't unplug the internet. The man's composure cracked. Who gave you access? Your favorite ex-employee, Ethan said. Mark recorded everything. Mark's eyes widened. Wait, what? I didn't. Ethan didn't look at him. Your office mic was still active the night you made your deal. Every word went straight to my servers. The man's hand clenched into a fist. You set us up. No, Ethan said. You set yourselves up. I just cleaned the floor afterward. Gunmetal flashed. One guard lifted his pistol. Ethan moved first, grabbed a metal case off the table, slammed it into the guard's wrist. The gun clattered to the concrete. The second guard lunged. Ethan ducked, drove an elbow into his ribs, followed with a sharp strike to the neck. Both went down fast, silent, efficient. Mark stumbled back, hands raised. Ethan, I didn't listen. You sold me out, Ethan said, calm but deadly. You tried to destroy what we built. Why? Mark's voice shook. Because you left me behind, you became the hero. I was supposed to be part of that. Ethan stared at him. You were until greed replaced your spine. The suited man reached into his coat. Enough of this. Before he could pull the trigger, the warehouse doors burst open. Police lights flooded the interior, red, blue chaos. Officers poured in, shouting commands. The man froze mid-draw. Ethan raised his hand slowly. Glad you could make it, he told the cops. You're right on time. Claire stepped in behind them, soaked but steady. You really didn't trust me to stay put, huh? Ethan grinned. Knew you'd show up anyway. Detectives swarmed the Voltrix team. The suited man glared as they cuffed him. You think this changes anything? Ethan leaned close. Yeah, it changes ownership. Mark was dragged away too, pleading, Ethan, please, I didn't mean. Ethan's eyes softened for just a moment. You did, that's what hurts most. Hours later, the warehouse was quiet again, crime scene tape fluttering in the wind. Ethan stood at the edge of the lot, watching as dawn cracked the horizon. Claire joined him. You good? She asked. He nodded. Better than good. You realize you just took down an international hedge fund, right? Add it to the resume. She chuckled softly. What now? He looked toward the rising sun. Now we rebuild, this time without shadows. By the next morning, Stratus Tech was front-page news again, but this time as the hero. CEO exposes corporate crime syndicate blazed across every outlet. Stock prices soared. The employees who had once whispered now spoke his name like a badge of pride. Ethan arrived at the office to applause that shook the lobby. Lena ran up to him, grinning. You're trending higher than the president. He laughed. Let's hope for better approval ratings. She handed him a tablet. Project Ascent just hit prototype stage. We can demo it to investors today. Then let's do it, he said. Time to remind the world why we're here. The board gathered in the auditorium again. The energy was electric, nervous but hopeful. Screens lit up with Lena's team presenting their live interface, dynamic data, seamless AI feedback, predictive graphs dancing across the display. Ethan stood beside her, addressing the crowd. This isn't just software, he said. It's a symbol, proof that innovation doesn't come from titles, it comes from opportunity. Everyone in this room has value. Some of you forgot that. I hope you remember now. Applause erupted louder than ever before. As he stepped off stage, Claire leaned over. You know, you sound like a motivational movie, right? Good, Ethan said with a smirk. Maybe they'll buy the sequel. But beneath the celebration, a new message was already finding its way into his inbox. No sender, no subject, just a single line. Nice work cleaning up the floor, too bad the ceiling, about to collapse. He frowned. Not again. Claire saw the look on his face. What is it? Another ghost, he said quietly. Voltrix might be gone, but someone else is pulling strings. Then what do we do? Ethan pocketed the phone. We stay ready always. Later that evening, he walked the empty halls of Stratus again. Everything gleamed, the result of an entire staff cleaning, polishing, rebuilding. For once, it looked like the company he'd dreamed of. He stopped in front of the glass wall where the Stratus logo shimmered against the city lights. His reflection looked older but stronger. He spoke softly like to an old friend. We survived, huh? Behind him, Lena appeared. More than survived, you changed everything. He smiled. No, we did. She hesitated. There's talk about expanding, new branches, global offices. You really think we can handle that after all this? He looked out over the city again. We can handle anything as long as we remember where we came from. Midnight, the office was empty again. Ethan sat alone in his chair, scrolling through a folder labeled Legacy, photos of old employees, the janitor closet, the little plastic broom trophy. He held the trophy in his hands for a long moment, turning it over. Still my favorite award, he murmured. His phone vibrated, another message encrypted, unreadable except for one word in the subject line, Phase 4. He stared at it, a wry smile creeping onto his face. Guess we're not done yet. He deleted the message, set the phone down, and leaned back in his chair. Outside, lightning flashed once more over the city, illuminating the skyline he'd reclaimed. Ethan whispered to the dark glass, "Bring it." The thunder rolled deep and endless, as if the whole city had heard the challenge. And somewhere unseen, someone answered it. The night sky over the city shimmered with restless light. Inside Stratus Tech, the hum of servers was steady again, calm after weeks of chaos. Ethan Cole sat at his desk, eyes locked on the encrypted message he'd received, Phase 4. No sender, no trace, just a promise that the story wasn't finished. He leaned back, staring at the skyline through the glass. "Who are you?" he muttered. The office phone rang once, sharp against the silence. He answered. A distorted voice crackled through. "You've done well cleaning the ground floor, but you still don't know who built the building." "Then enlighten me," Ethan said. "Not over the phone. Tomorrow noon you'll receive coordinates." The line died. He stared at the receiver, heartbeat steady. Whatever this was, it wasn't over. Morning came heavy and gray. Rain slicked the streets again, as if the city itself couldn't decide whether to cleanse or drown. Ethan told no one, no Claire, no Board, not even Lena. He simply left. The coordinates led to an abandoned observatory on the city's edge. Glass domes cracked, ivy curling over rusted rails. Inside, dust floated in beams of light like memory itself. A single figure waited near the telescope, an older man in a long coat, silver hair, posture sharp. "Mr. Cole," he said without turning, "you made good time." "And you are?" "Victor Dre." The name hit Ethan like a whisper from a grave. The original investor who'd backed Stratus's founding vanished after the first buyout, rumored dead. "You were supposed to be gone," Ethan said. Victor smiled thinly. "Gone yes, dead no. I built Stratus Tech, you just took it public. Voltrix was my creation too." Ethan froze. "You ran both." "I own both," Victor said, turning to face him. His eyes gleamed like polished steel. "Competition is expensive. Why fight when you can profit from both sides?" "You tried to destroy me." Victor spread his hands. "Correction, I tested you. Voltrix's collapse proved your worth. Now I want you to join me." Ethan laughed once sharp. "You want me to be your puppet?" "No," Victor said softly. "My partner, you have the fire, I have the reach. Together we could own every major tech corridor from here to Berlin." Ethan took a slow step forward. "You think I built all this to sell out again?" Victor's smile didn't fade. "I think you built it to survive. I'm offering you eternity." Ethan's voice dropped. "You don't get it. I didn't clean this company to own the world. I did it so people like you would finally lose control." Victor's face hardened. "Then you leave me no choice." From the shadows, two men stepped out, security armed. Ethan didn't move. "You really didn't learn anything from Voltrix." Victor nodded to his guards. "Take him outside. Accidents happen in the rain." The first man grabbed Ethan's arm. The second raised his pistol. In one motion, Ethan twisted, slammed the man's wrist, sent the gun spinning into the air, caught it mid-fall, and aimed. "Accidents do happen," he said, firing once. The bullet shattered the light above, plunging the dome into strobe flashes of lightning. The guards bolted. Victor stumbled back, furious. "You can't stop this," he shouted. "I still own everything." "Not anymore," Ethan said, pulling a small transmitter from his pocket. "While you were talking, my system was syncing your servers to federal databases. Every transaction, every shell company, every offshore account gone." Victor's eyes widened. "You cleaned house," Ethan finished, "for good this time." Victor lunged forward, grabbing his coat. "You think you can erase me?" Ethan's stare was cold enough to burn. "I don't erase people, I expose them." Outside, sirens wailed closer. Victor backed away, trembling with rage. "You'll regret this. You can't build anything without monsters like me funding it." Ethan lowered the gun. "Then I'll build it without monsters." Police lights painted the dome red and blue. Officers swarmed in. Victor was dragged away, shouting curses that faded into the storm. Ethan stood alone under the broken glass roof, rain dripping through onto his face. He closed his eyes, let the water wash over him, and whispered, "It's done." Hours later, he walked back into Stratus Tech, soaked to the bone. Claire was waiting at the elevator, fury and relief in her eyes. "Where the hell were you?" "Finishing the cleanup," he said. She crossed her arms. "You could have been killed." He smiled faintly. "You worry too much." "I work too much for a man who vanishes like Batman." He laughed for the first time in days. "Fair point." She followed him into his office. "So what happens now? You've taken down every threat we know of." Ethan looked at the view, the city gleaming beneath the fatting rain. Now we start for real, no lies, no ghosts, just work that matters. Claire leaned on the desk. And you really think people will follow you after everything? He met her eyes, they already are. A week later, the company held its first open-door summit. Employees, developers, interns, even janitors invited to speak. The auditorium was packed. Ethan walked onto the stage in a simple shirt, no suit, no spotlight. I used to mop these floors, he began. Every night I told myself I'd never forget what it felt like to be invisible. Stratus was built on talent, but it lost its soul. Together, we brought it back. Applause thundered. He waited, then raised a hand. But this isn't my victory, it's ours. Every idea pitched, every hour worked, every time someone chose integrity over convenience, you built this. He pointed to the logo glowing behind him. This doesn't stand for a company anymore, it stands for a promise that nobody stays a nobody if they keep moving forward. The crowd roared, phones flashed. In the back row, Lena wiped her eyes, Claire smiled, even the board members were on their feet. Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years, peace. After the summit, the building emptied into celebration. Music in the lobby, laughter echoing through halls that once carried whispers. Ethan lingered behind, wandering the quiet corridors. He stopped by the janitor's closet, the same one he'd worked in years ago. The door still squeaked. Inside, the smell of old polish and soap lingered. He reached up to the top shelf and found the same broom, same bucket. He leaned on it for a moment, smiling. Guess I'll always be better at this than paperwork. A voice behind him said softly, you never stopped being the janitor, you just started cleaning bigger rooms. He turned, Lena stood there holding a small box. What's that? She handed it to him. Inside was a new trophy, a golden broom engraved, for cleaning the world, not just the floors. He laughed quietly, you really didn't have to. We wanted to, she said, for reminding us that the bottom floor can rise all the way up. He set it on the shelf next to the old plastic one. Maybe I'll start a collection. She smiled, don't stop now, we still need a boss who believes. I'm not a boss, he said, I'm just the guy making sure the lights stay on. Then you're the best kind of one. Later that night, Ethan stood on the rooftop, wind cutting cold across the city. Claire joined him, 2 mugs of coffee in hand. One last shift, she asked, handing him one. He nodded, one last shift. They watched the skyline in silence. Below, Stratus Tech glowed like a heartbeat, steady, alive. Claire broke the quiet. You think it'll ever end? The threats, the tests, the people trying to take it all. Ethan sipped his coffee. No, but that's the point. You can't stop the dirt, you just keep cleaning. She smiled. You really are addicted to that metaphor. He chuckled, occupational hazard. The wind picked up. Far below, fireworks bloomed from a nearby plaza, celebration for Stratus's public recovery. Gold sparks rained against the dark, reflected in the glass towers like echoes of everything they'd survived. Ethan looked at them and said quietly, they used to call me a nobody. Claire turned to him, and now? He smiled, now I don't need them to call me anything. At sunrise, he walked through the lobby alone. The cleaners, new hires, respected, now nodded to him as he passed. One of them grinned, morning, boss. Ethan smiled back, morning. He stopped, turned, and took the mop from the young man's hands. Here, he said, let me show you a trick. If you start from the corner and pull toward the light, you never leave streaks. The worker blinked, you sure you want to do that? Ethan looked at the shining floor, I always do. As the mop glided across the marble, sunlight poured through the glass doors, reflecting his silhouette. A man who'd gone from unseen to unstoppable, yet somehow stayed exactly who he'd been the whole time. He leaned on the handle, looking at his reflection. For the first time, it wasn't 2 different people staring back, just one. He whispered to the empty lobby, clean floor, clean slate. And with that, he hung the mop, straightened his tie, and walked toward the elevators. The doors closed on his reflection, half janitor, half legend. Outside, the world kept turning, unaware that the man who'd started with a bucket had just rewritten what it meant to rise.